a calculator handy, please go ahead and take it out so we can go through this. I don't want to go through all of the calculations. I just want to get this done so you guys can see this. All right. On your test tomorrow, Brandon, on your test tomorrow, you guys have one question that asks you all of these things to determine the direction of the parabola, the vertex, axis of symmetry, max and min, x and y intercepts. So we're going to go through how to find that. I told you guys you can use a calculator because some of the numbers are going to be yucky. You can put it in a decimal, you can put it in a fraction, I don't care, whichever your calculator does. So if I look at this, the first thing I'm going to tell is the direction that the parabola opens. Does this open up or down? Up. How do you know that? Okay, it's positive, so it opens up. Guys, that is not end behavior. Some of you in your quizzes told me falls left, right, whatever. Up or down. If it's positive, it's up. If it's negative, it's down. So if you're trying to find the vertex, what's that little formula we use for vertex? Good. X equals negative b over 2a. So as we go to do this, I have negative 5, right? That's my b. Over 2 times 2, which is, so I have positive 5 over 4. Okay, you can leave it as a fraction if you want to. Some of your calculators will work in fractions. Some of them will work in decimals. So to find the decimal equivalent, what is 5 divided by 4? Don't guess. Just tell me real quick. You guys have phones. Do 5 divided by 4. 1.25. Okay? Either way, that's fine. In order to find y, what do you do with the... You plug the x back in. So you're going to say y equals 2 times 1.25. What else can I use? 5 over 4. Minus 5 times 1.25, or 5 over 4, minus 3. So what do you get in your calculator? Do it step by step. Is it y equals? What is 1.25 times 1.25? Don't. 1.5625, okay? What's negative 5 times 1.25? Negative 6.25 minus 3. So then what is 2 times 1.5625? 3.125. Okay, so minus 6.25 minus 3. Do all that in your calculator. 3.125 minus 6.25 minus 3. Negative 6.125. Do you guys agree? Yes or no? Okay, so your vertex. Yeah. Excuse me? Yeah, that's why you can use a calculator. So you should get in your calculator, or however you do it, if you do decimals, it should be 1.25 and negative 6.125. If you kept that as a fraction, does anybody know how to do that as a fraction? It would be 5 over 4. And then negative what? 49 over 8. Okay, either way, guys, it doesn't, I don't care. I'll work my answer key out, so both of them. If you get a decimal that's like 0.333333, just round it. Don't write 0.333 a million times. But do you guys understand the process? You should be able, if you can use a calculator, we're not going to worry that it's a fraction or a decimal. Okay, we're good? All right, so if I ask you guys what the axis of symmetry is, AOS is at x equals what? 5 over 4 or 1.25. If you do not put x equals, I'm taking points off just like I did on the quiz.
And then
the minimum,
negative 6.125.
There's a minimum at y equals negative 49 over 8 or negative 6.125. Everybody understand that? You see that? Now to find x and y intercepts, guys, in order to find the x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y. In order to find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. So for my y-intercept, you can just look at that and tell me what the y-intercept is. Your y-intercept is whatever the constant is. is at negative 3. So you either write 0, negative 3, or you can write y equals negative 3. If all you do is put negative 3, I'm taking points off.
So you just plug in negative 3 for x, right?
No.
No, you don't.
Oh, wait.
That's it. You plug in 0 right here, and then because you're finding the intercept. So you plug in 0 for x, and you find out your y. It's always going to be whatever the constant is. In order to find the x-intercept, that's when we have to factor. So you have 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And here I'm plugging in 0 for y. So you're just going to end up factoring. So when you factor, how do you factor when a is not 1? Okay, so I get negative 6. What are the factors of negative 6? That multiply to give me negative 6, but add to give me negative 5.
Negative 6 and y.
Okay, so I have minus 6 and positive 1, you said?
Yeah.
All right, now I have to do something here. I cannot just leave it like that.
X equals...
My a term is not 1, so I have to put a 2 underneath here. What is 6 divided by 2? So I have x minus 3. Does 1/2 divide pretty? So it goes out in front here. So it's 2x plus 1, and that equals 0. And then you just solve it. So you'd get an intercept at x equals 3. You can also write it as 3 comma 0. And you get an x-intercept at, if I move the 1 over, it becomes what? Negative, and then I divide by. So I have x equals negative 1/2, or you can write it as negative 1/2 comma 0.
So you put both of them?
Yeah. You guys are going to get fractions, but that's okay. The only time you really have to use your calculator is for the vertex. We good?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the second one. Same thing. Which way does this one open? How do you know it opens down? Because it's negative, so it opens down. So in order to find the vertex, what do? X equals negative 10 over 2 times negative 3. Good. So negative 10 over negative 6 gives me, again, 5 over 3? Positive? Okay. Positive 5/3. What do I do with 5/3? Make it a decimal. All right. How would I make 5/3 a decimal, guys? In your calculator, what's 5 divided by 3? 1.6 repeating, right? So just make it 1.7. Just for easy calculation. It's 1.666. Just make it 1.7. That's fine. And then what do I do with 5 over 3 or 1.7 to find the y? You plug it back in. Good. So I say y equals negative 3 times 1.7 squared plus 10 times 1.7 plus 8. Now, some of your calculators you guys are real good with. You can put the whole thing in at one time. Some of us aren't that great with our calculators. That's okay. Let's just go step by step. Negative 3, what's 1.7 times 1.7? Anybody?
2.9.
What is it?
2.89.
2.89? Okay. Plus, what's 10 times 1.7?
17.
Yep, 17 plus 8. So now what's negative 3 times 2.89?
Negative 8.67.
Negative 8.67? Yeah. Okay. Plus 17 plus 8. So do that in your calculator. 16.333333. So 16.3? Okay. Anybody know what that is as a fraction?
No.
What's 0.3333?
3.
Not just 3. How would I get 0.333? Anybody know? 1 divided by 3? 1/3. So the same as 16 and 1/3. Now again, doesn't matter. I don't care how you guys write it, fraction or decimal. So this is 5 over 3, comma, 16 and 1/3. Or 1.7 and 16.3, right? What's your axis of symmetry? What letter?
X.
So 5 over 3 or 1.7. What's your maximum or your minimum? What is it, a maximum or a minimum? If it opens down, what is this point here? The top or the bottom? That's the top. So is that a maximum or a minimum? It's a max at y equals either 16 and 1/3 or 16.3. Either way you want to write it. And then we're going to find our intercepts. I can find my y-intercept just by looking. My y-intercept is going to be when x is 0, y is what? 8. It's the constant, and we're at the end. In order to find the x-intercepts, we're going to have to factor. So I'm going to have negative 3x squared plus 10x plus 8 equals 0. If I lead with a negative, what's the first thing I should do? Take it out. I'm just going to take out negative 1 from everything. What is that going to end up doing to all the signs? Yeah, so 3x squared minus 10x minus 8 equals 0. What do I do? Yep, so 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. What are the factors of negative 24? That multiply to give you negative 24, but add to give you negative 10. 6 and 4, but it won't give you a negative when you multiply and a positive when you add. 12 and 2. Negative 12 and positive 2. Right? Because a negative and a positive when you multiply is negative, but when you add negative 12 and positive 2, you get negative 10. So x and x. Guys, do I just leave it like that? What do I do with the 3? Good. Put the 3 underneath. So this becomes x minus 4 and 3x plus 2. Good. And then once I do that, I have my x-intercepts at x equals 4 and x equals what? Move the 2 over, becomes not positive. Negative 2 over what? Yep. I could also write that as 4 comma 0 and negative 2/3 comma 0. Questions? You'll have one of those. Then you're going to have one of the end behaviors and finding the zeros. First of all, look at for end behaviors, you look at the biggest exponent. Is that odd or even? Even. That means our arrows go in what direction? Same. Good. Now, how do I know which way they go? Both up or both down? Because negative is right here. That means they both go down. So you would say falling, which way? Left, and falling right. Most of you got that on the quiz. So now if I'm going to find the zeros, 3x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus 2x squared equals 0. What do I do? Okay, what's the greatest common factor? How many? 2 of them. I'm going to take out x squared. I'm going to take out negative since it leads with a negative. So when I do that, I'm left with x squared, what? Plus 5x. Then what? I have no idea. 3x squared plus 5x, then what? Minus 2. And now we factor. All right, I still have my negative x squared out in front. So when I factor, I have 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. What are the factors of negative 6? That multiply to give me negative 6, but add to give me positive 5. Yep. How do I factor this? Divide everything by 3. Good. So I have negative x squared, 3x minus 1, and x plus 2. Agreed? So you set each piece equal to 0 now. So x equals 0, x equals positive 1/3, and x equals negative 2. We good? Okay. And behavior. Look at the exponent. Odd or even? It's odd. That means my arrows go in opposite or different directions. Is this a positive x cubed or a negative one? So think about a line. When a line goes negative downwards, what's happening on the left-hand side? What's happening on the right-hand side? Rising left. And what? Falling right. Good. And now let's factor. Negative 5x cubed minus 14x plus 3 equals 0. Take out that negative first. If I take out that negative, I have negative 1. It becomes, was there an x? Make this squared and put an x there. You guys see what I did? So it'll work prettier. Negative 5x cubed minus 14x squared plus 3x equals 0. So take out a negative x. You're left with 5x squared plus 14x minus 3 equals 0. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Good. So I have x plus 15, x minus 1. Good. Divide everything by the 3. That's there. Perfect. Good job, Jordan. So negative x. Then I have x plus 5. And what? 3x minus 1. So I have zeros at x equals 0, x equals negative 5, and x equals positive 1/3. I went through that rather quickly, guys, because we've done this like 100 times. Yes, ma'am?
Why did you take out the negative x?
At the beginning?
Oh, you put the x in?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I added an extra x in it. I should have done that from the get-go. All right, let's look at the ones. You guys are going to have 2 synthetic division ones. The numbers might get big, but that's okay because you're going to have your calculator. So how do I do synthetic division? What do I do first? Okay, I'm going to take x minus 6 and I'm going to set it equal to 0. So I get x equals what? X equals 6. So in the corner, right here, I'm going to put x equals 6. Now what do I do? I write all the coefficients out. So my coefficients are 8. Then what? Negative 55. Positive 44. And negative 12. Jordan, does that make sense? Okay. And now all we do is start our synthetic division. You bring down that first term, 8, and you multiply to the corner. What is 8 times 6? 48. And then I add down. Remember, you'll have your calculator. So what's negative 55 plus 48? Negative 7? Okay. So multiply to the corner and add down. What's negative 7 times 6? Negative 42. Now add down. What's 44 plus negative 42? Positive 2. Multiply to the corner. What's 2 times 6? 12. And then what's negative 12 and a positive 12? 0. This one happens to have no what? No remainder. Good. The way we write our resulting polynomial, you can't just leave it like that. You have to write your answer. I look and I say I started off with x cubed. That means my answer is going to start with x. Good. So this is my x squared. This is my x. This is my constant. This is my remainder. So read the answer to me. Nope. 8x squared. Minus 7x plus 2. Perfect. Yep. Mm-hmm. That should go relatively quickly. You'll have 2 of these, but you again, like you guys at the beginning, you're like, oh my gosh, these numbers are big. Who cares? You have a calculator, and this one actually worked out to be not so bad. So here, what little number is going to go in the corner? Positive 3, right? Change the sign. So now let's look and see. What do I put out as coefficients? 1, negative 10, positive 15, and 20. What do I have to make sure that there's no... Not that there's no remainder. I have to make sure there's no gaps. Whatever you start with, the biggest exponent. You see how it's x to the third? Yeah. Then your next should be x squared. Then it should be x. Then it's a constant. Mm-hmm. If there was... Say it was x cubed plus 15x. There wasn't anything for x squared, you'd have to put a 0.
So
So if there's a gap, you just
Put a 0. Yeah, if you don't, it'll mess the answer be all wrong. So multiply to the corner. What is 1 times 3? Negative 10 plus 3. Negative 7. Negative 7 times 3. Negative 21. What's 15 plus negative 21? Negative 6. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. And 20 plus negative 18 is 2. So this one happens to have a what? Remainder. I started off with x cubed, so my answer is going to start with x. Good. So x squared, x, constant, remainder. So how do I write it? X squared minus 7x minus 6 plus 2 over x minus 3. That's it. All right, and then you will have one, absolutely will have one that says solve using long division. Now, if you do the long division and you get some wacky answer, how could you check to see if it was right or not? You could plug it back in, but what else could you do? What was the shortcut to long division? Synthetic division. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But if it says to use long division, you have to use long division. So on the outside, I have x plus 1. On the inside, I have x cubed minus 6x squared minus 6x plus 9, right? Yes or no? Yes, okay. So do our little side work here. X times what gives me x cubed? X squared. So I'm going to put it above my x squared. And before I multiply, I'm going to get my subtraction ready. So I don't forget to do what with that negative sign? What am I have to do with that negative? Distribute it. So if I multiply, if x squared times x is x cubed, x squared times 1 is positive x squared, correct? Now before we subtract, what do? Distribute, distribute, distribute. So I have negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7x squared. What happens to my x cubes? They cancel out. And what do I do with negative 6x? I bring it down. And we do the whole thing all over again. First term into first term. X times what gives me negative 7x squared? Negative 7. Negative 7x, okay? Before you multiply, go ahead and get your subtraction ready. So multiply. Negative 7 times x is negative 7x squared. Negative 7x times 1 is negative 7x. What do I do with that negative sign? Distribute, distribute, distribute. So negative 6 plus 7? Just plain old x. And then what do I do with the 9? Plus 9. And then we do that all over again. First term into first term. X times what gives me x? 1. So multiply. 1 times x is x. 1 times 1 is 1. And then what do I do with the negative sign? Distribute, distribute, distribute. So I'm left with 9 minus 1 is 8. 8 is my what? Remainder. So you would write your answer as x squared minus 7x plus 1 plus 8 over x plus 1. Now let me show you what I meant by see how you could check it. All right, you have to use long division. You have to work it out like that. If you don't, and you just do synthetic division, I'm not giving you guys any credit. This question is asking you to use the process of long division. But you could, at the end, what am I going to put in the corner of my little box if I was going to use synthetic division? Negative 1. So I have negative 1. And then what are my coefficients?
1, negative 6, and 9.
So let's do this quickly. Bring down the 1. What's 1 times negative 1? Negative 1. Negative 6 and negative 1 is negative 7, right? Go to the corner. Negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. What's negative 6 and 7? 1. And then I multiply. 1 times negative 1, negative 1, and I have 8. So if I was going to write out my resulting polynomial, I would start with x what? Squared. So this would be x squared, x, constant, remainder. Write my answer for me.
X squared is 7x.
Is that what we got? Yes? Okay, so you guys should be able to do that to check your answer. Most of you won't, but I'm just letting you see that you could use that to check. All right, let's do the last one. What's going in the corner?
X.
Oh, sorry, long division. What goes on the outside?
X plus 3.
X plus 3. Can you guys give me just like 5 more minutes and then you can talk? 6x cubed plus 28x squared plus 25x minus 21. Yep. Okay, let's go. First term into first term. X times what gives me 6x cubed? 6x squared. So before you do any multiplication, get your subtraction set up. 6x squared times x is 6x cubed. 6x squared times 3 is plus 18x squared, correct? What do I do with that negative? Distribute, distribute, distribute. So I have 28 minus 18. 10x squared. What happens to my 6x cubes? And then what do I do with 25x? Okay. Same thing. First term into first term. So x into 10x squared. 10x, so plus 10x. Multiply. What's 10x times x? 10x squared. What is 10x times 3? 30x. And before I subtract, I distribute, distribute, distribute. So 25 minus 30. Negative 5x. Good. 10x squareds cancel out. And then I bring down negative 21. X times what gives me negative 5x? Negative 5? Yeah? So minus 5. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And then what do I do? Distribute, distribute, distribute. So negative 21 plus 15. Negative 6. That's my what? Remainder. So I would write my answer as 6x squared plus 10x minus 5 minus 6 over x plus 3. And how can I check that? Synthetic division. So what's going to go in the corner? Negative 3, right? And what are my coefficients? 6. 28.
The following clubs need to go to the gym: Fiat, his house, and the SGA 9th and 10th grades. Fiat, his house, and
So let's check. I have 6. Multiply to the corner. What's 6 times negative 3? Negative 18. If I add down, what's 28 and negative 18? 10. Go to the corner. 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. Add down, what's 25 and negative 30? Negative 5. Go to the corner. Negative 5 and negative 3? 15. Add down, I get negative 6. So, since I started off with x cubed, my answer starts off with x. So, squared x constant remainder. I would say 6x squared plus 10x minus 5 minus 6 over x plus 3. Is that what I got? Yes. So that's a way that you could check to see if you did it correctly. Yes, ma'am.
In the beginning, like when you have the x plus 3 on the other side, like, and you have to divide the first one into the x.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that part.
Like the first step.
Yeah.
Okay, so if
I
I...
understand like how you do like the other ones and like subtract and distribute the negative, but like I don't get how you get the first one.
Like the first term. Okay. Let's just say I had like x minus 2 into 3x squared plus x minus 1. You always go first term into first term. So x into 3x squared. The rest will follow into place if you just do that one step. So what is x times 3x squared? What would I have to multiply x by? 3 and an x, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it above x to the first, just kind of keep it all in order. And then once you just do the first term into the first term, everything will kind of fall into place. Because now 3x times x is 3x squared. And then 3x and negative 6x, right? then distribute. So now I have 7x minus 1. So again,
Okay.
just look at the first. So this first thing into this first thing. So x times what gives me 7x?
Okay.
It'd be 7, right? And then everything will fall into place since it's a binomial.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. All right, so can you use a calculator tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes. Those of you who have been sitting and watching something on TV,